Welcome in, everyone, to another episode of my top 5 Dynasty Fantasy Football takeaways. I know most people weren't playing fantasy football in week 18, but Dynasty is year round. So let's jump into takeaway number 1. Sam LaPorta, setting records, but also suffered an injury. He was ruled out almost immediately. Luckily, though, it's not a torn ACL. So it's a hyperextended knee and bone bruise. Probably, if I had to guess, going to miss all of the playoffs that the Lions make it, but this is not going to be a problem for the 2024 season. Overall, put up his final stat line, 86 catches on 120 targets for 889 yards and 10 touchdowns. Love to see that 10 touchdowns. He finishes the tight end 1 overall, 3rd in fantasy points per game behind Travis Kelce and TJ Hawkinson. With Hawkinson, obviously, with his major knee injury, not going to be ready for week 1. Travis Kelce is in decline, might retire. Sam LaPorta is the redraft tight end 1 in 2024. Also, since he turns just 23 this week, one of the youngest tight ends in the league, he's clearly the Dynasty tight end 1. The only competition for that Dynasty tight end 1 spot this offseason is actually a player who's not in the NFL, Brock Bowers, who, believe me, we're going to talk about a lot as we go through the rookie season. I love Brock Bowers. But with that said, Sam LaPorta for now, Dynasty tight end 1. I'm really interested to see how the Lions adapt without LaPorta. Goff still played well this week. 320 yards, 2 touchdowns, completed almost 75% of his passes. And Amon-Ra St. Brown, we know, is a superstar. But can Goff step up without LaPorta, potentially without Jameson Williams with his ankle injury in the playoffs? We're going to have to see. But for now, just enjoy Sam LaPorta's great season, and let's be thankful it's not a torn ACL. Now, moving into the best news of the week. My favorite news, Arthur Smith is fired. And I don't usually revel in someone else's anger, but I loved seeing Arthur Smith go out in a petulant, like a baby, out the door, complaining and whining. I loved it. Because this is what we've been doing about Arthur Smith the entire season. Look, he was awful. He was an awful head coach. 3 seasons, 7-10 all 3 years, 8th overall pick all 3 years. Failure. So, in terms of how we look going forward, Desmond Ridder actually was not that bad in this game, but it was pretty bad all year because if we look at it, here was the Falcons' total quarterback play this year. 61.7% completion. That's pretty bad for the today's NFL. 17 touchdowns to 17 interceptions. That's horrible. That's horrible. 3,775 yards for all quarterbacks through 17 games. Pretty bad. 7.1 yards per attempt. Also really bad. So this is where Arthur Smith had a real problem, was managing the quarterback play, setting up the quarterbacks to succeed. That was the worst part of Arthur Smith. He failed there. He also failed in underutilizing Bijan Robinson, although he did have a 71-yard touchdown and 74% snap share in this game. So he wasn't terrible this week. But why is Cordero Patterson getting 5 carries? Too much Tyler Algier. I think the next coach fixes that. As for Drake London, he had 9 targets, 75% snap share. He just didn't do anything. That isn't Arthur Smith's fault unless he's making the quarterback play badly. So we're going to see what happens with new quarterback plays. Drake London, I think, is going to benefit the most from the new quarterback. Bijan Robinson will benefit the most from a new coach. However, I am concerned about Kyle Pitts because he's, for 2 years, has really looked not so good. I'm not sure that just, like I said, quarterback will fix Drake London. New coach will probably fix Bijan Robinson because he had just not that far away. But Kyle Pitts is miles away from what we wanted. I'm not sure that just bringing in a new coach is going to fix everything immediately. But it can't be worse. So that's at least a step in the right direction. Now, this next one. Breece Hall is going to be a star in 2024. Despite the snow, Hall absolutely crushed it in Week 18. 37 carries, 178 yards and a touchdown, 2 catches for 12 yards, 89% snap share. For the year, despite being in a horrible offense, he still managed 994 yards on the ground, 591 yards through the air, 76 catches is great, 9 total touchdowns, not great for the work he got, but not overall horrible. Imagine Hall with touchdown regression coming in a better offense. Aaron Rodgers, who we know from his experience with Aaron Jones, dumps the ball off a lot. He's an older quarterback. He's going to use the running back in the receiving game. And Hall was great this year. So imagine what he could be fully healthy. He turns 23 years old in May. He's not old. He's one of the few workhorses in the NFL who is good at all facets of the game. He's good everywhere. He is the dynasty RB2, clearly. And I think it's more deciding who's won between him and Bijan Robinson. I think it's very close. Whereas Jahmyr Gibbs is a step down. He is not the same kind of workhorse as Breece Hall. Breece Hall is a first-round redraft pick next year as well. And I'm all in on him having a massive 2024 campaign. Next one. Just want to talk a little bit about Andrei Iosivas, the receiver from Cincinnati. I did mention him in a stash video a couple weeks back, and I hope you listened because he had a great game. He had 5 catches, 36 yards, 2 touchdowns on 7 targets, 92% snap share. I think it's pretty clear that Tyler Boyd, who had a horrible drop, played only 42% of snaps, didn't do anything this week. He's almost certainly gone. T. Higgins, I think, is up in the air. I lean that he probably stays. Maybe they use the franchise tag. Maybe they try to keep it together for one more year. But Iosivas has done enough, I think, to earn the wide receiver 3 job. We've seen that when he gets work, he can be fantasy relevant, even with Jake Browning, let alone with Joe Burrow. So he's someone who should be rostered in all dynasty leagues in case somehow T. Higgins leaves. Then he'll gain even more value. But he's definitely someone where I love the talent. I love what I've seen and imagine what it would look like with Joe Burrow. Wanted to point that out for a short little while. Now, last one, and this one is the most maybe interesting of the week. The Bears will take Caleb Williams with the first overall pick and trade Justin Fields away. Fields, I think, had every opportunity. If he had come out and destroyed the Packers, I think it was there. I think he had the opportunity to change people's minds or at least make it a discussion. But he did everything possible to not make it a discussion. 11 for 16 for 148 yards, just didn't do anything. 8 for 27 rushing. The Bears lost 17-9. The offense just didn't look good. I get that Fields has been dealt a bad hand, but no improvements have been made over 3 years. Let's take a look at it. Here's his 2021 stats. 58.9% completion, 7 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, 6.9 yards per attempt. Now let's look at 2022. 60.4% completion, 17 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, 7.1 yards per attempt. Now that's a little better than 2021. The problem is when we go to 2023. It's very similar. Similar 61.4% completion, similar touchdown interception ratio, 16-9. And only 6.9 yards per attempt. We're stuck in that right around 7. That's not good enough. It's not good enough. And then it gets even worse because Fields regressed as a rusher. Last year, 7.1 yards a carry, 76.2 yards a game, and 8 rushing touchdowns. This year, just 5.3 yards per carry, 50.5 yards a game, and 4 rushing touchdowns. So he wasn't even as good in that area. Fields' best season as a passer is comparable to Desmond Ritter's career. There's no statistical case for keeping Justin Fields. Now, someone told me I should read this thread by Nick Whalen. Oh, it's going to change your mind. It was very long. It took me almost 5 minutes to read. You know what was conspicuously absent from that thread? And actually all the other threads supporting Justin Fields? You know what nobody ever talks about? There's no statistical case, not one mention of a stat that Justin Fields did. 0. Because there is no case. None. 0 case. It's all based on, well, what might have been, what could have happened. Oh, you know, if it had been this, if this had happened. That's not the way the world works. 3 years is a long time in the NFL. Fields was not even a top 5 pick. Yeah, if the Bears didn't have the top overall pick, they might keep Fields for next year because they'd have no better option. But They do. They do have the top overall pick, which means they have a better option. Fields, I think, is, in terms of real life, somewhere between 20 and 25 quarterback. That means he's a starter. That means he's probably going to get a chance in 2024 on a prove it 1 year opportunity to prove why he should be a starter for 2025. That opportunity is probably going to take place in a location like Atlanta, Las Vegas. Those are the top two on my list because they have no access to a quarterback in the draft. You know, those would be the opportunities for him. I would lean toward Atlanta, but we'll see about Las Vegas. Right now, he's quarterback 16 in my Dynasty rankings. He'll fall even further once rookies are added, obviously behind Williams and Drake May at the minimum, probably Jaden Daniels too. So he'll probably be quarterback 19 after the rookie draft. But there's no case. None. We live in a world of facts and statistics and reality. The reality says it's time to move on. So that's what I think the Bears will do. If you still have, someone put it very well. If you're still wondering if the guy is the guy after 3 years, he's not the guy. So they're going to take Caleb Williams, and I just want this to be resolved sooner rather than later because I really don't want to talk about this for 3 more months. To me, it's very clear what the Bears have to do. Now, if you like what I'm talking about, the stuff on the YouTube channel and all of that, make sure to drop a like on the video. Leave a comment whether you agree or disagree. If you have anything to say about what I've said on this video, leave a comment. Subscribe to the channel because I'm doing Dynasty content all year round. The Dynasty content never, ever stops here. And I also take advanced questions for the video for patrons only at patreon.com/fantasyadvice. The link is in the top right corner in the show comments and in the show description. You can ask questions on the Patreon Discord, and I will read them here. You can hear my answers, and that's only for patrons. With that said, let's get into Patreon question number 1. This is more of a dance on the grave. Do you think Arthur Smith's next head coaching job will be with his own fantasy football team? I really don't think Arthur Smith will ever have another head coaching job, and I really hope he doesn't become an offensive coordinator for a team that I like. Let's jump into the next one. Superflex Dynasty. First Dynasty trade I've had in Patreon questions in a while. Sending David Montgomery, Carr, and mid-second for Goff, Michael Meyer, and Parker Washington. It's the Goff side very easily. I think Goff is worth more than the entire other side in Superflex. So that's an easy trade. Next one. Any thoughts on Bo Melton? Is he a stash? So the Packers are like loaded with offensive weapons. They're all young. All of Luke Musgrave, Tucker Kraft, Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, Dontavian Wicks, Jaden Reed, and Bo Melton are all under contract through 2025. So my honest answer is no. Like, Bo Melton doesn't have a path to even being the wide receiver 3, let alone probably not even 4 on that team. So unfortunately, no, I'd say not really, because it's pretty clear that he's behind Watson, Wicks, Reed, and Doubs. But we'll have to see. What is the line for 24 picks where you're willing to trade for random 25 first in Superflex? It's a very strong draft. Next year is maybe not as good. Generally, in a generic draft, I say I'll trade 109 or further back. This year, maybe it's 110. But 110 through 112, I'd probably trade and take the chance in the higher end asset. 109 or higher for now, I think that's what I would keep. But that's going to change as we move forward. Would you say Trevor Lawrence is a buy this offseason? There seems to be this suggestion that he's one of the most overrated dynasty quarterbacks. I think it is what it is. Like, yeah, if I can send the 105 for Trevor Lawrence in Superflex, I'm doing it. If it's going to cost a lot more than that, then probably not. So it depends on the price. I'd love to see trades for Trevor Lawrence. I'll read them on the show. I'm not sure that I would say that he's necessarily a buy because I'm not seeing people sell him for cheap. Last one. Who gained the most value with the season ending? Spears, Atlanta players, just to gain a few. We talked about the Atlanta players. Jaden Reed, I think, is up there. Someone who's just been consistently good. Tajay Spears, of course, on my list. And Jordan Love. Jordan Love, I think, has been great lately. So there's just a few. If you like the video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. As always, that's what helps support the YouTube the most. If you want to support me and my content, sign up for the Patreon at patreon.com/fantasyadvice. I want to thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all later.